Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I haven't been here for a while, so I don't really recognize anyone, but I thought it was time to come back. So as John said, I'm here representing Thrive NYC. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar. It's the city's initiative to address mental health. Thrive NYC has been around now for a couple of years, and it's sort of the largest effort the city has made to address mental health up to date. Some of the public-facing programs within Thrive that I really am here to talk about today are NYCWell. I'll leave some pamphlets out on the table when I'm done. NYCWell is a hotline. I'm hoping some of you have heard of it before, hopefully, because we do a lot of advertising behind it. Again, NYCWell. I compare it to 311, which I know all of you are familiar with. It's a hotline to sort of support New Yorkers' mental health needs. One of the main services within NYCWell is it is a bridge to provide you information on mental health resources. So let's say yourself needed to find a therapist in your community. You can call NYCWell. You can get someone live on the phone, and they'll tell you a listing of outpatient services that are available to you in your community just by providing your zip code and a little background information on perhaps the issue. I myself was in the field of social work prior to working with the mayor's office and the Department of Health. And I can say this is a resource that I use for many of my clients when I was seeking out services for them. Before this was actually a service called LifeNet prior to being NYCWell, which was a similar service, but what the city did was it took it over, sort of scrubbed out a lot of predated information, updated it, added many more resources to it, and there you have NYCWell. Within this service as well, we have crisis workers who can be available. If, let's say, you're working in a school and you know a young person who potentially is having some mental health challenges, maybe severely depressed and just needs to talk to somebody, there are crisis workers on this phone line. Again, young people don't often like to talk on the phone, so there's a text option as well. It's not limited to young people, so I don't want to give that impression. It's for everyone, all ages. And it's an amazing service. There's a mobile crisis unit that's accessible through this service as well. I should make this clear. It's not in place of 911. Of course, if it's an emergency, you're going to want to call 911. If you have an emotionally disturbed person in your vicinity and you feel that's potentially suicidal or homicidal or just a threat to someone's safety, always call 911. This is more so not for immediate crisis, but for someone who is going through a challenge and needs support and just can benefit from speaking to somebody and hopefully can get pointed in the right direction towards services if they don't already have them. So that pretty much covers NYCWell. It's extremely comprehensive. Those folks will then follow up with an email or a text and give you a listing of all the services you discuss on the phone as well. So amazing service. Please pass it on, if not for yourself, for someone you know. Again, I'll leave some pamphlets on the table. The main program that I'm really here to touch base on, which I'm most involved in, is mental health first aid. If any of you have heard of it before, forgive me, I'm probably repeating what you know already. Mm-hmm. As of now, over 100,000 New Yorkers have taken part in mental health first aid. New York City created this goal of training 250,000 New Yorkers. It's an extremely lofty goal. When this program started out, it was sort of spearheaded by the mayor and the first lady. They had gone through their own personal challenges around mental health, specifically with their children. This is a story they've told themselves, so I'm not divulging anything too personal here. Their own children had battled some mental health challenges, and they found that it was really hard to navigate through the system when seeking out support. And they thought to themselves, if it's hard for us, imagine what it is for your everyday New Yorker. So they had this vision of making mental health services more accessible to folks, making them more available, and really educating people more about mental health and how common some of these issues are. So mental health first aid is a one-day training or a workshop that any New Yorker can take. It's funded through your tax dollars. It's completely free. Anybody could sign up. On the back of here is a website. You can access And through there is a registration process. It's pretty simple, ask some questions, and from there you can go take a class. To the public, on an individual level, like if you yourself or you want to recommend somebody go, once you sign up, we provide them in many of our New York City libraries is our most common location that we provide them at. On a private level, if you're connected to a community organization, a church, a synagogue, a tenant association group, or through your own professional life, through your working group, if you want to organize a professional development opportunity, you can give us a call and we can set up a private training for your group where we have an amazing training team, a full staff of, somewhere around 30 trainers who it's their job every day to go out throughout all the boroughs and train folks on this course. And we can come to you. All that we ask is a group of about 25 or more folks. Simple as just looking at a calendar and figuring out a day that works for everybody. It is a commitment. It's a full day. It's an 8-hour course, but within that course, you will learn a lot, especially if you don't have a clinical, mental health background. You will learn a lot. We've trained just about everybody. They purposely chose this training module because it's not targeted to any one group. It's very general information. It touches on a vast array of issues within mental health, everywhere from diagnosis through learning how to use the correct language when talking about some of these issues, to accessing supports and services. It touches on the full gambit. Again, we've trained everyone. We work with most of the city agencies, if not all. PD is highly involved in this program, FDNY, where I myself actually organize all of our Department of Ed trainings. We connect many school teachers, HHA, the hospitals. We've trained private companies. Google is one of our bigger corporations that we had a chance to work with. I could ramble on and on about this, but it is not for, it's not limited to anyone. And I should mention as well, within this training, we have different modules based on the age group that you're working with or that you're connected to on a personal level. So let's say you have a teenage grandchild and you're concerned about them. They look depressed all the time and you don't know what's going on with them. And you want to learn more about, what are some of the challenges at that age. We have a youth mental health training that you can take, where you'll learn about some of the specific challenges that teenagers and adolescents go through. Our main core module is the adult mental health, and then we have an older adult training as well. So we really try to open this up to everybody. We provide it in different languages. Spanish and Chinese Mandarin are the most common alternative languages that we offer it in. So it's there for everybody. You take the training, you get this lovely textbook. It sort of, gives all the information and more that you learn that day. You'll get a certification, which is valid for 3 years. And that certification comes from the National Council for Behavioral Health, which many would say is the most sort of admired mental health organization nationally. And they're the ones who we sort of get a lot of this material from. They've created this training module. They've trained a number of folks. Obviously scheduling is always a challenge. So I know there's sort of target groups within PD that have trained so far. Obviously folks are in the field, working hard. You can't get to everyone. So that's worked out on a city level. We work pretty much with all agencies, and everybody has been great about sort of getting their people out there. And, again, everyone can't be trained within agencies because, people need to work, right? But agencies have been great about sort of having folks step up, take training, and then passing that information on. A lot of agencies have their own trainers embedded within the agency, who take our train the trainer course, and they'll go back to the agency and provide that training for the rest of the folks there. So it's been going really well. Everyone's been very supportive of this program, and the vast majority has been positive feedback. The hotline is 24 hours. It could be accessed at any time. I do feel the need to, again, say, when it comes to emergencies, 911 is the place to call. It's not in place of 911. Although this is a very comprehensive hotline, it is also limited. Yeah. So, I know they will probably point you in the right direction as far as, if someone needs like shelter listings or things of that nature. But as far as the sort of referral process goes, they are mainly limited to outpatient services specifically connected to mental health. So again, if you call up, you provide your zip code, they'll give you, a pretty big list depending on where you live. And this goes beyond city services. This is, nonprofits, community organizations. They really try to grab onto all the information that is available. What I might recommend is, especially if you're sort of trying to build a list in Midtown, is, calling up, obviously letting them know, who you are and sort of what your goal is. But I would imagine they can give you a listing of services in the area. Right. I want to say it's NYCWell. I'll leave it out there, and I'll leave a bunch if you want to take a few extra. And if anybody's interested in, having my card, maybe getting back to me if you're interested in organizing private training, perhaps, for any group you're connected to, I'd be happy to talk about that. So this material is very specific. It's a training module that's there. You're not freestyling when you're doing this training, and you're not there to give any sort of clinical, advice. We make it clear nobody's there to diagnose you or your relative or your friend. That's not the purpose of this training. I look at it like, taking a class. It's an educational sort of platform to learn general information, and this information is there already for our trainers to learn. There's sort of a vetting process, and then there's a commitment, because this is provided by the city. So they want to, there's a lot of people who have this idea that they're going to come and take the trainer, become a trainer, and then just disappear. But that would not really be productive for the city to be doing that, right? So there's a commitment in terms of what you're giving back to the city, on a volunteer basis, of course. And then they're also vetting who's taking part in that opportunity, because they want it to be going out to people, on a regular basis. They don't want somebody just leaving New York City, going to a private corporation and taking that with them, and sort of just benefiting on a personal level. We have a gentleman who really focuses on sort of working with private companies and sort of some of the pressures that are faced on the corporate level. And that training, usually the focus is like colleague to colleague, just being supportive of one another, being able to identify if your colleague is, in a high pressure situation, going through something, and being able to use the appropriate language to kind of help them in that situation or direct them to the appropriate services. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody.